The scent of bacon and coffee wafted through the old diner like a warm memory. Maple and Pine had stood on the corner of Main and River for nearly 4 decades. But for Lexi, it had become something else entirely, a place where she'd left her heart 6 years ago. She moved behind the counter with muscle memory, pouring coffee, flipping menus, wiping tables. Her redanned yellow apron clung to her frame, her ponytail bouncing as she walked, her tired blue eyes scanning each new face that entered like she was searching for something. Or someone every Thursday morning felt the same quiet ordinary. And heavy with what was missing, Ava, her sister, her best friend. Her protector 6 years ago. Ava walked out of their tiny apartment after an argument, something stupid about rent or a boy, or how they were going to survive on waitress tips and student loans. Lexi remembered the slam of the door, remembered. The rain remembered waking up to find Ava's cherry blossom bracelet left on the porch railing. She never saw her again. No call, no note, just gone. But Lexi didn't believe in gone. Not really. She believed in breadcrumbs. She believed in signs. That's why she never left town, never quit this job, never stopped watching the door. Because Ava loved waffles at Maple and Pine, and Lexi believed, deep down, that Ava would one day come back for them. Lex, a voice called from the kitchen. Table 6 needs clearing. Lexi glanced up. Table 6, her heart stuttered. Ava's favorite spot by the window. She used to joke that it had the best view of the universe, which really just meant it looked out at a fire hydrant and a crooked elm tree. Lexi grabbed her notepad and moved toward the table, but it wasn't empty. A woman sat there, graceful, and still, like she'd walked out of a magazine ad for expensive perfume. She wore a white silk blouse, gold rings and pearls that shimmered against her collarbone. Her skin was smooth, her lips painted in the kind of red that screamed elegance. Lexi blinked. The woman looked completely out of place here among truckers. And flannel shirts? Good morning, Lexi said, smoothing her apron. What can I get you? The woman didn't look up. Her voice was velvet but cold. Black coffee, no sugar. Lexi nodded, trying to push down the strange chill crawling up her spine. She turned to step away when her eyes caught something resting near the woman's purse. It was small, delicate, rose gold, with tiny cherry blossom engravings across the band. Lexi's heart slammed in her chest. No. It couldn't be. She stepped closer. Her hands trembled as she leaned slightly over, pretending to wipe the edge of the table, just to get a better look. Her breath hitched. There it was, the scratch near the clasp. The same one Ava had made when they were kids, and she fell off her bike. She never got it repaired properly, just glued it herself, and kept wearing it. Like it had more meaning with the scar. Lexi's voice came out as barely a whisper. That bracelet? The woman looked up slowly, one perfectly shaped brow lifting. Excuse me? She said. Lexi's mouth was dry. That bracelet. Where did you get it? The woman smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was a gift. From my daughter. Lexi's legs wobbled. Don't think that's possible. I beg your pardon? Lexi took a step back. Her voice cracked. That bracelet belonged to my sister. She went missing 6 years ago. That bracelet has a scratch by the clasp. I would know it anywhere. The woman's face stiffened. For the first time, the confidence in her expression faltered. I think. You're mistaken, she said, reaching for the bracelet. Lexi's vision blurred, her fingers clenched into fists. I'm not. The diner quieted. Customers looked over. Even the short-order cook behind the grill stopped flipping eggs. At the counter, Toby, the kitchen assistant with shaggy dark hair and quiet eyes, stepped out. He rarely spoke much. Now he slowly made his way toward table 6. What's going on? He asked softly. Lexi turned to him, voice breaking. Toby, that bracelet. That's Ava's. It's hers. The exact one. Toby looked down, then back at the woman. His jaw tensed. That's not just any bracelet. I remember Lexi showing it to me. She wore a copy of it on a necklace for months. The woman's hands trembled slightly. Ma'am, Toby said gently, do you know the girl this belongs to? The woman stood, I don't know what kind of game this is, but Lexi cut her off. This isn't a game. My sister disappeared, and you're wearing the last piece of her that ever came home. The woman's lips parted. Her face began to pale. Lexi took a deep breath, her voice now trembling but clear. If you know anything about Ava, please. I need to know. The woman stared at Lexi for a long moment. The diner waited in silence. Then her lips parted. Her next words came out like a crack in the air. She's alive. Gasps. A mug shattered in the background. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Lexi froze. What? What did you say? She asked, barely breathing. The woman looked down at the bracelet. Her fingers brushed it gently, like touching it. Burned her. I never meant for this to happen, she said quietly. But your sister, she didn't vanish. She made a choice. I helped her. Lexi stumbled back, hand over her mouth. Tears sprang to her eyes. Ava was alive, and suddenly, nothing about her world was quiet anymore. For a moment, Lexi stood, frozen in place, her breathing ragged, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the sound of the diner around her. She's alive, she whispered. The elegant woman across from her closed her eyes as if the weight of that sentence had been pressing against her chest for years. Lexi's voice cracked again. Ava is alive. Vera nodded slowly. Yes. The words shattered something inside Lexi. The grief she'd carefully bottled up for 6 long years cracked open, spilling into her bloodstream like wildfire. She clutched the edge of the table to steady herself, as if gravity had suddenly become too strong. Where is she? She demanded. Where's my sister? Vera hesitated. The diners had all gone quiet, their forks paused mid-air, her eyes bouncing between Lexi and the woman who held their attention like a courtroom drama. Even the radio in the corner, usually murmuring classic rock, was silent. Vera gestured to the chair across from her. Please, sit down, Lexi. Didn't move. She couldn't. You owe me the truth, she said sharply. You're wearing her bracelet, and now you say she's alive. Talk. Toby stepped forward, placing a hand gently on Lexi's arm. Maybe. Just breathe for a second, Lex. Shh. She looked at him, his calm eyes, his steady voice, and took one breath. Then another. Vera sighed, her manicured fingers nervously turning the coffee mug in front of her. 6 years ago, your sister showed up at my private clinic in Boston. She was 19. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She was pregnant, alone, desperate. Lexi's throat closed. Pregnant. She gave me a fake name at first. Vera continued, but I recognized the panic in her eyes. I used to run a crisis shelter before I became a physician. She didn't want help. She wanted to disappear. She wouldn't do that, Lexi whispered. Not to me. She believed she had to, Vera said. She told me she'd failed her family, that she'd already caused enough damage. Tried to convince her otherwise, but she was determined. She didn't want her child growing up around the same pain she felt. Lexi's fists clenched. And you helped her run away? I gave her a place to stay, Vera said gently. For a while, she stayed in my guest house through the pregnancy. She didn't want to be found, Lexi. She was scared. Lexi blinked fast, trying to hold back tears. She thought I hated her. Vera nodded sadly. She said you two had fought. That you told her to leave if she couldn't get her life together. She took it to heart. I didn't mean it, Lexi whispered. I was angry. Stupid. She left and never came back. She never stopped loving you, Vera added. Used to cry at night, said you were her best friend growing up. She kept the bracelet because it reminded her of the only person who truly understood her. Lexi stared at the bracelet lying between them. She gave it to me, Vera said, voice shaking slightly. After her daughter was born, she said it was time to let go of her old life. Gave it to me as a thank you. I didn't know what it truly meant until now. Lexi felt like her soul was screaming. So many years of silence, of not knowing, of imagining the worst. She left after giving birth, Vera said. No forwarding address, no phone number. But I kept tabs where I could, just in case. Vera reached into her purse and slowly slid something across the table. A napkin, folded neatly, an address written in black ink. Lexi stared at it, not daring to touch it. What is this? Vera took a breath. What's where she is now? She's in Portland, Maine. She works at a little flower shop on Belmont Street. I drove. By once, I saw her through the window. She looked peaceful. Lexi's hands shook as she picked up the napkin. You should have told me. I didn't know who you were, Vera said softly. Until I saw your reaction to the bracelet, then I realized. You weren't just anyone. You were her sister. The bracelet caught the morning sunlight, casting tiny pink glints across the table like petals. Does she know I'm still looking for her? Lexi asked. Vera shook her head. She assumed you'd moved on. She told me she didn't deserve to be found. Lexi swallowed hard, pain rising in her throat. She's wrong. Toby spoke for the first time since the reveal. Lex, are you gonna go? Lexi stood slowly, folding the napkin carefully and slipping it into her apron. Today? Wait, Vera said, reaching into her purse again. She pulled out a tiny photograph slightly bent at the corners and handed it over. Lexi stared at it. A little girl, maybe 5, stood in a garden of sunflowers. She wore a blue dress, her dark curls wild around her head. Her smile was wide. Unmistakable. She looks like Ava, Lexi breathed. She is Ava's daughter, Vera confirmed. Her name's Mira. Lexi's knees almost buckled. She now had a niece. And Ava. Ava was out there breathing the same air, just waiting to be found. She turned to leave, eyes burning. Lexi, Vera called softly. She might be scared to see you, but I promise you, she's never stopped needing you. Lexi didn't turn around. She just nodded, tucked the photo next to the address, and walked out of the diner. The bells above the door jingled, and the quiet hum of maple and pine slowly returned, but something had shifted. Something permanent. Table 6 was no longer just a table. It was the place where the truth finally came home, the road to Portland. Maine was long and winding, but Lexi didn't notice the miles. She didn't notice the gas gauge dipping or the gray clouds rolling in. She had one hand on the wheel and the other pressed over the folded napkin with the address, like if she let go, the moment might disappear. In the passenger seat, the photo of a little girl in a sunflower dress rested against her phone screen. Mira, her niece. The name echoed in Lexi's mind like a song she didn't know she knew. The streets of Portland were alive with soft rain and the blur of blooming color. It wasn't hard to find the place Belmont blooms, nestled between a bakery and a bookstore. Its front window was fogged slightly from the humidity. A hand-painted sign read, "Every petal has a story." Lexi stood across the street for a full minute, afraid to move. Her legs were trembling. What if Ava didn't want to see her? What if she was angry? What if too much time had passed? But something deeper pushed her forward. Love, and the belief that sisters don't disappear, they wait to be found. She crossed the street and opened the flower shop door. A small bell rang overhead. The air smelled like lavender and earth. Bright buckets of roses, hydrangeas, and sunflowers lined the walls. A radio hummed softly in the background. Then she heard a voice. Just a minute, it called from the back. Familiar, softer, but unmistakable. Lexi's chest tightened. Her hands gripped the counter. From the rear hallway, a woman stepped into view, wiping her hands on a damp apron. She wore jeans, her hair pulled into a low, messy braid. Ava.Lex, I barely recognized. She looked older, calmer, her features touched by time and motherhood. But when their eyes met, the years melted. Away Ava froze, her lips parted, her eyes shimmered. Lex, she whispered. Lexi didn't speak. Her mouth opened, but all she could do was nod. Her vision blurred. And then Ava crossed the floor in 3 steps and threw her arms around her. Both sisters collapsed into the embrace, trembling, crying, clutching each other like they were afraid to let go. I'm so sorry, Ava sobbed. I didn't know if you'd want to see me. I didn't think you would ever forgive me. I thought you were dead, Lexi cried into her shoulder. I thought I'd lost you forever. I wanted to call so many times, Ava said, pulling back just enough to look at her face. But I was ashamed. I didn't know how to come back after everything. Lexi shook her head. You never had to be perfect to come home. Ava touched Lexi's cheek, smiling through tears. You found me. Lexi reached into her pocket and pulled out the cherry blossom bracelet. Ava's breath caught. You still have it? She asked, voice cracking. I found it on someone else's wrist. Lexi said gently. I knew it had to lead me too. You. Ava reached for it, her fingers trembling. Lexi placed it gently in her hand. I gave this away, Ava said softly. Because I thought I didn't deserve to wear it anymore? Lexi smiled. Well, now you do. Then a tiny voice echoed from the back hallway, Mommy. Lexi turned. A small girl peeked around the corner, her curls bouncing, her sunflower dress brushing her knees. Ava turned and crouched low. Come here, honey. The little girl ran forward and wrapped her arms around Ava's neck. Then she looked up at Lexi with wide brown eyes. Who's that? She asked curiously. Ava smiled. Through tears. That's your Aunt Lexi. Mira blinked. I have an aunt? You do, Lexi said, kneeling slowly. And I've waited a long time to meet you. The little girl tilted her head. Do you like flowers?
Lexi
Chuckled. I do now. Mira smiled and reached into a vase behind her, pulling out a single pink daisy. She held it out to Lexi with both hands. This one's for you. Lexi took it, her eyes wet again. Thank you, sweet girl.
Ava stood,
Her hand resting on Mira's shoulder. I want to tell you everything, she said. About what happened, about why I left. Lexi nodded. We've got time. Spent the rest of the day in the shop, drinking tea, catching up, laughing through tears. Ava talked about the night she left, how terrified she was, how Vera helped her survive, how she'd thought she was protecting Lexi by staying away. I thought I'd ruined everything, she said. But it turns out, I just needed to find my way back. Lexi reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You were never gone from my heart. You never could be. As the sun dipped behind the clouds, Lexi stepped outside and looked up at the sky. For the first time in years, she felt whole. A week later, back at Maple and Pine, a bell over the diner door jingled as Lexi walked in, a lightness in her step. The regulars hadn't seen in years. Toby looked up from the kitchen window, a surprised smile forming on his face. She's back. Lexi wore a new bracelet, now rose gold, with 2 small charms, one for Ava, one for Mira. Morning, she said, tying on her apron. Everything okay? Toby asked quietly. Lexi smiled. Better than okay? Did you find her? Slowly, I found both of them. He handed her a cup of coffee, their eyes locking in mutual understanding. At table 6, sunlight streamed through the window. Lexi placed a tiny vase of pink daisies on it and sat for a moment, just breathing. Because some tables aren't just tables, they're chapters, they're homing sames. And sometimes it's where a lost story finally writes its ending.